Will the clerk please call the roll? What?
Seeger.
Here.
Ress.
Here.
McInnes.
Here.
Willie.
Here.
Doherty.
Here.
Barcelona.
Here.
Crawford.
Here.
Drum.
I am here, sir.
Randolph.
Here.
Trixie. Fitzmaurice.
Here.
Everyone is present. We have quorum.
Thank you. Public announcements, please silence all phones and electronic devices. If you disagree with something this commission votes one way or the other on, you have the right to appeal it to the council. There are appeal cards on the railing over to the right. Speaker cards, if you wish to speak, you must fill out a speaker card, and they're over on the railing also. Public speaking, 10 minutes each side and 5 minutes for rebuttal. That's, if you're for or against, it's 10 minutes, not per person, and the 5-minute rebuttal. After your case is heard, looks like we got plenty of seating in here tonight, but so it may not be necessary to exit the building, but if there are people come in and need seating and your case has already been heard, then I'll ask you to leave. Please stand for the invocation and pledge. Invocations by Commissioner Randolph and the pledge by Commissioner Drum.
Gracious Father, we thank you once again for the many blessings you bestowed on our lives. Thank you for your grace and mercy that you bestowed upon us this day and in time past. We thank you for the opportunity to meet with fellow commissioners. Bless us this night with this meeting. Bless the citizens that we serve and those that's in the audience as well. We ask that you continue to be with our staff and our government and our leaders. It's in your holy name, Lord, that we also ask that you continue to bless our families, and in your holy name, amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In your packets, you had the May 11th meeting minutes. If there's no corrections, I'll accept a motion to approve. Commissioner Randolph.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Randolph. Commissioner Crawford.
Second that.
Second by Commissioner Crawford. Please vote.
Motion to approve the minutes carries.
Thank you. Staff, do we have any requests for postponement?
On the second page, 2021-2404 MSP. If you had a chance to review the staff reports, there's a list of items to address. So we have someone here to represent the owner to request postponement until next month to allow time to address the requirements.
Okay. Is that the only one?
Yes.
All right. This is good tonight then. All right. This particular case is 2021-2404 MSP, a minor subdivision, lots 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 into lots 1A, 2, 3, 4A, and 5A. The owner and representative is Scariana Holdings, LLC. Parish Council District Representatives, Honorable Reichert Toledano. General location, the parcel's located on the northeast corner of 6th Avenue and Soul Drive, Covington, Ward 3, District 5. Anyone in the audience oppose postponing this? Seeing no one, I'll close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Crawford.
Motion to postpone till next meeting.
Okay, a motion to postpone till our next planning meeting. Commissioner Fitzmaurice.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Fitzmaurice. Please vote.
Motion to postpone carries.
Thank you. All right, we'll go back over to the page one. This is, we don't have any entering the parish right-of-way, servitudes, easements, or Tammany trace. Revocation review, REV 21-05-002. Revocation of an unopened portion of Baser Road located on the north side of Chipunk Drive, south of Willowwood Drive, between lots 23 and 24 in the River Forest Country Club subdivision, Covington, Ward 1, District 3. The applicant is John Knight. Parish Council District Representatives, the Honorable Martha Cassabon. This was postponed from the May 11th meeting. Staff?
Okay. The applicant is requesting to revoke a unopened portion of a right-of-way. And the staff does recommend that it not be revoked. We looked into a couple of other options, a couple of leasing agreements to see what we could maybe do to kind of accommodate the situation. Unfortunately, I consulted with our legal department, and the parish actually is able to actually lease, and that its ability to lease is found in the Louisiana revised statutes, and it allows for the lease when a property is no longer needed for public purposes. Unfortunately, since we kind of determined that this will be needed for public purposes in the future, we really can't use that option.
Okay, thank you. Is Mr. John Knight in the audience? Seeing no one, we'll close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Fitzmaurice.
Motion to deny.
Motion to deny by Commissioner Fitzmaurice. Commissioner Randolph.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Randolph. Any further discussion? Please vote.
Motion to deny carries.
Thank you. All right, minor subdivision review, 2021-2397, MSP, a minor subdivision of parcels A and B into parcel A1 and B1. Owner and representatives Michael J. and Therioli Abear. Parish Council District Representative, the Honorable Martha Cassabon. General location, parcel located at the end of Handsome Meadow Road, Covington, Ward 2, District 3. Staff?
The applicant is requesting to create two parcels from parcels A and B. The minor subdivision request requires a public hearing due to parcel A and B were previously part of a minor subdivision approved in June 2014. Parcel B1 does not meet the minimal lot width of 300 feet required under the A1 suburban zoning district and requiring a waiver from the minor subdivision ordinance. And parcel A1 is proposed to be accessed from a 30-foot servitude of passage from parcel B1. So the request shall be subject to the above three items, and also, number one, the survey should be amended to reflect Handsome Meadow Lane instead of a Handsome Meadow Road.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone here to speak on this? Yes, ma'am. Please state your name and address.
Michelle Panino, 77230 Panino Road, Covington, Louisiana, 70435.
Okay. And you are wanting to,
Michael was supposed to be here, but I think he went to the wrong place, so I'm here to help him. They want to do that because it's a lot of acreage for their home, so they're hoping to separate into the two parcels of about 15 acres.
okay. Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak in favor on this? Anyone wish to speak against? I'll close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Willie.
Yeah, it is a large acreage, it's 14 and 15 acres. I don't have a problem with it. I'll move for approval with the waiver.
Motion by Commissioner Willie to approve with the waiver. Commissioner Fitzmaurice.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Fitzmaurice. Any further discussion? Please vote.
Motion to approve with waiver carries.
Thank you. All right. On page 2, the very first item, 2021-2400-MSP, a minor subdivision of parcel A into parcel A1 and A2. Owner representatives Logan Charles Boudreau and Sandra D. Helms. Parish Council District Representative Martha Casabon. General location, the parcel located on the south side of Louisiana Highway 1077 and on the west side of Church Road, Folsom, Ward 2, District 3. Staff?
The applicant is requesting to create two parcels from parcel A. The minor subdivision request requires a public hearing due to parcel A was previously part of a minor subdivision approved in April 2008, and parcel A1 does not meet the minimum lot width of 80 feet in the rear of the property, requiring under PF1 Public Facilities Zoning District and requiring a waiver from the Planning Commission.
Okay, thank you. Anyone here to speak on this item? Yes, sir, please come to the microphone. State your name and address.
Logan Boudreau, 201 Spur Court,
Good.
Covington, 70435.
Good evening.
Good evening. This is family property, a total of right about 4 acres. It's owned by my mother-in-law, who's currently semi-disabled. We're moving out there to try to help her out, and also have 2 acres to ourselves so we can raise our family.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wish to speak in favor on this item? Anyone wish to speak against? I'll close it to the public, bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Willie.
Yeah, I have a question regarding the zoning. It's zone PF1. Is there anything on the property as far as public facility? What's on it?
No.
There's
If there's a
nothing?
house on one of the parcel,
Wonder how I got zone PF1.
there was a church in the past, but
Over the Bugfly Church that they had moved? Okay. No problem with this. Move for approval
with the
Motion.
waiver.
with the waiver.
Motion by Commissioner Willie to approve with the waiver. Commissioner Randolph.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Randolph. Any further discussion? Please vote.
Motion to approve with waiver carries.
Thank you. Re-subdivision review. First item is 2021-2369-MRP. Re-subdivision of lot 613 and part of common area into lot 613A, Chifuncta Club Estates, Phase 2. The owners are Carrie B. and Jane B. Drake, and Chifuncta Club Estates subdivision. Representative is Paul J. Marone, Surveyors Land Surveying LLC. Parish Council District Representative, the Honorable Marty Dean. General location, the property is located on the south side of Wax Myrtle Lane, Covington, Ward 1, District 1. Staff?
The owner is requesting to re-subdivide lot 613 and a portion of a common area into one residential site. The reason for the public hearing requirements is that the proposal involves the creation and adjustment of lots within a subdivision that requires approval of the Planning Commission, and the creation and adjustment of lots involves the addition of a portion of reserved or common area to the lot.
Good evening, Mr. Marone.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Paul Maroon on behalf of the petitioners. This case and the next case are similar. You may recall that I appeared before the commission several months ago now with 2 identical cases. And by way of background, if you'll recall, in this area of Chifuncta Estates, these lots back up to what was a common area green space that was part of the golf course, but it was on the opposite side of a large pond, which sort of left it as kind of a no man's land. The golfers never used it. It became an issue with maintenance, and some of those adjacent lot owners asked if Chifuncta Club Estates, the owner, would be willing to sell them their portion and allow them to bring that small area into their lots. This is the 4th. Will be the 3rd and the 4th request this evening is doing that. As I mentioned before, there will likely be others as we kind of make our way down these lots. Each landowner or lot owner adjacent to it is kind of moving at their own pace. There has been interest from many more, but the timing on when they want to do that will vary. As for these two lots, the first one that is before you is lot 613. The green space area behind it that we would be incorporating into the lot is .05 acres. So it's a very small area. That very small area will not affect the overall green space for this area of the PUD. The green space greatly exceeds the 25% minimum that the PUD ordinance requires. So with that being said, we would respectfully request your approval of the re-subdivision of 613 and the .05 acres of common area into 613A, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that any of the commissioners might have.
Thank you, Mr. Morone. Anyone in the audience wish to speak for or against on this item? Seeing no one, I'll close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Willie.
Move for approval.
Motion by Commissioner Willie for approval. Commissioner Fitzmaurice.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Fitzmaurice. Any further discussion? Please vote.
Motion to approve carries.
Thank you. All right, the next item is 2021-2370 MRP, re-subdivision of Lot 615 and part of common area into Lot 615A, Chafuncta Club Estates Phase 2. Owners are Edgar M. and Kelly C. Randolph and Chafuncta Club Estates Subdivision. Representatives Paul J. Morone. Surveyors Land Surveying LLC. Parish Council District Representative Honorable Marty Dean. General location, the property is located on the south side of Wax Myrtle Lane, Covington, Ward 1, District 1. Staff?
The reason for the public hearing is that the creation or adjustment of lots within a subdivision that requires approval by the Planning Commission.
Thank you. Mr. Morone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the identical case with the identical acreage involved, and we respectfully request your approval of the resub, and this time of Lot 615 and the common area into Lot 615A, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that any of the commissioners might have about this request.
Thank you. Anyone in the audience wish to speak for or against on this item? I'll close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Fitzmaurice,
Motion to approve.
with the waivers. Oh, waivers. Okay, I thought I heard Helen say waivers. Okay, well, Commissioner Willie.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Willie. Any further discussion? Please vote.
Motion to approve carries.
Thank you. Next item is 2021-2394 MRP, re-subdivision of lots 145 and 146 into Lot 146A, Money Hill Plantation, Phase 2B. Owners and representative Stephen E. and Janet C. Whiteside. Surveyors Edward J. Murphy, professional engineer and PLS. Parish Council District Representative Honorable Cheryl Tanner. General location, the property is located on the west side of Plantation Drive, Abita Springs, Ward 6, District 6. Staff?
The owner is requesting to create one lot, Lot 146A. The public hearing is required considering that, as stated in the restrictive covenants of the approved plat, no lot shall be further re-subdivided without the approval of the Planning Commission.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Stephen Whiteside, 748 Plantation Drive in Abita Springs.
Okay,
And I'm the applicant and the owner of both tracts.
all right. Thank you. Anyone in the audience wish to speak for or against on this? Seeing no one, I'll bring it back to the commission. Commissioner McInnes.
Yes, my office used to be out at Money Hill, so I know this area really well. And, of course, anybody wanting to enlarge a lot, gets my support anyway. So I vote that we approve. It's a beautiful subdivision, and they have tree ordinance there, so I feel confident it's a good project.
This particular tract has 5 large oak trees on it, mature oaks.
Nice.
All right, Commissioner Truxillo.
I second.
Second by Commissioner Truxillo. Any further discussion? Please vote.
Motion to approve carries.
All right, we go to petitions requests. First case is PET-2021-002. Request to build on a buildable substandard lot of record pursuant to Section 125-84, contiguous lot rule of Chapter 125, subdivision regulations located on the south side of Sunshine Avenue, west of Ruby Street, within the west half of Square 56, Malleyville Subdivision, Covington, Ward 3, District 2. The owner petitioner is Dragonfly Enterprises Incorporated, James Lindsay. Parish Council District Representative is David Fitzgerald. Staff?
The petitioner is requesting to build on a 4,800 square foot property having 60-foot road frontage along 7th Street, Sunshine Avenue, and a depth of 80 feet. Staff does not have any objection to the request, as the petitioner has the opportunity to purchase the 4,800 square foot lot without the option to acquire any adjacent property, and based on the facts that the petitioner has satisfied the requisite requirements of proof as referenced to the above.
Thank you. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Jamie Lindsay, 81116 Highway 1083 in beautiful Bush, Louisiana. I'd like to state that the property has been advertised for well over half a century, and I cannot acquire more land around it, and I've never sold any land around it.
Okay, thank you. Anyone in the audience wish to speak for or against on this item? Seeing no one, I'll close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Willie.
Yeah, Mr. Lindsay's met all the requirements. I move for approval.
Motion by Commissioner Willie to approve. Commissioner Randolph.
A second.
Second by Commissioner Randolph. Please vote.
Did you ask for anyone against it? My name is Don Grossnickel, 20180 River Park Drive. We're trying to get more information on this particular lot. I see that it is substandard, being 60-foot wide and 80-foot deep. I talked to the next door neighbor of this property. He informed me that he tried to purchase the land from him because he's worried that the septic tank was going to be too close to his well in the back of the property. And as far as the other part, contiguous lots, I would like to know how much land does that company own around that area? I know he owns a relatively large piece right around the corner on Ruby Street. And what I'm worried about is him coming around and start cutting all these lots in this area into 60 by 80-foot lots and creating another garden home subdivision like we fought so hard against behind Sunshine to the south of Sunshine, which created a disaster for the people on Sunshine. Is there any way that you could find out how much land they own? I'm told by the man next door that he owns the land not right behind him because he owns it like an L-shaped piece, but he owns the land behind him.
Well,
we're worried about him creating another PUD community that we don't need in this area.
well, it's the lot size apparently, when this subdivision was platted, the lots are 60 by 80 foot. And that, I don't know when the subdivision was platted. Staff, do you have any idea?
It would be in the 1900s.
Yes, and I think this is the only lot that is remaining of that size. That's the reason why it's in front of you today. As far as creating lots of 60 by 80, there's no zoning that would allow the creation of lots of that size.
And right now, this entire area is zoned highway commercial.
That's correct, yes. But as far as if they
And
would
what he
try,
wants to do now is build a single-family dwelling on this property. Am I correct?
that's correct.
Yeah,
How could he do that if it's zoned highway commercial?
It allows for single-family residential.
And which could they then turn around and turn the rest of the commercial property into residential and do just what I'm talking about?
They would not be allowed to create lots that are 60 by 80. That would not be permitted. The minimum lot size is much larger, and they would have to come through a public hearing. You would have the opportunity to voice your opinion.
Okay, thank you very much.
okay, thank you.
Excuse me, sir, can you fill the speaker?
Yes, sir.
My name is Eugene Young. I'm live at 19406 Sunshine Avenue, Covington. And my main problem here is this description. Nowhere on here does it say what it is they plan to build. In other words, what are we talking about here? What is this?
Single-family residential?
A single-family residence on a commercial lot.
Yeah.
Okay,
Because
so-
that's a permitted use under HC1.
Okay, I guess I have the same concerns as Mr. Grossnickel, that, okay, you do this for this one lot, allow a small house to be put on this commercial lot, and the next commercial lot next door to it, same thing's gonna happen, the one next door to that's gonna happen. So before you know it, we got another small PUD community. I'm against it.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir, you need to fill out a speaker card also.
Now,
Yes, ma'am. You do too, but come on to the microphone and you wish to speak?
yes.
Okay, state your name and address, please.
My name is Gail Grossnickel. I live at 20180 River Park Drive, Covington, Louisiana. All that area back there, this piece of property is toward the front. All that property that's behind there is more than 1 acre. So there's not really any property that's under 1 acre in that area. My concern is, what if this person buys this piece of property, does not build on it, then comes back and wants to take and have it rezoned again? And then he would have it rezoned for either apartments or for the garden homes. What is the idea of them doing this? Could they do this?
He would have to come back before the commission, yes.
Because there is quite a few pieces of property around where this house, so-called house, I can't see anyone building a substantial lot for this house. I
Okay.
feel like this property is gonna be used for something else. That's what I feel. And we do not need any more traffic than we have down that street. As you well know, it's a very narrow street, going down Sunshine all the way to the back, where I
Okay.
live. But all that's acres. And they have one subdivision that's to the right, left, and they are selling them for $100,000 each. So you can tell that this is a neighborhood that is acres, not the little bitty houses like this man will be, a substantial lot.
Okay, thank you. Staff, do you have any comments on this?
We can't predict the future, obviously. However, a lot 60 by 80 cannot be created under our current ordinance. It is not permitted.
Yeah.
This is just a lot that was created in 1900s. If the petitioner or the owner of the lots or the property around it wants to pursue any type of development, they'll have to come forward and submit some plans. And if they want to rezone the property, there will be another public hearing where the public will have the right to come and voice their opinion.
Okay, thank you. All right, we've had discussion for and against. We had a motion and a second. to approve, right? Okay. We've already voted. He's going to display the vote. Pardon?
Okay, we're good. Okay. Motion to approve carries.
Thank you. All right, we go to tentative subdivision review. First case is 2021-2403-TP, Tammany, Phase P1, Developer Owners Warehouser NR Company, Engineers Richard C. Lambert Consultants LLC, Parish Council District Representatives Honorable Steve Stefancic, general location north of I-12, south of Louisiana Highway 36, east of Louisiana Highway 434, west of Slidell, Ward 9, District 11. Staff?
Yes, sir. I believe Mr. Shane would like to address you real quick.
If I could, it may be efficient for the commission and everyone if we combine the
Okay.
preliminary case with the tentative case, realizing we'd vote on them separately.
Okay. All right.
So-
Does the commission have a problem with combining these two to hear and vote separately? Okay, let me read the other case. 2021-2402-PP, Tammany, Phase P1, Developer Owner Warehouser NR Company. Engineer is Richard C. Lambert Consultants LLC. Parish Council District Representative Honorable Steve Stefancic. General location north of I-12, south of Louisiana Highway 36, east of Louisiana Highway 434, west of Slidell, Ward 9, District 11. Staff, you have any?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
In regards to the request for tentative approval, staff has reviewed the documentation submitted and has no comments. And then in regards to preliminary approval, the preliminary plans and hydrologic study have been reviewed by this office, and an inspection was performed of the site on May 28th, 2021. Planning Commission approval shall be subject to the following items being addressed, and we have no comments regarding this in the plans or the hydrologic study. We do have a funded maintenance obligation. The amount of $10,000 is required in accordance with St. Tammany Parish Code of Ordinances, and that mandatory development fees will be required at final submittal in accordance with St. Tammany Parish Code of Ordinances.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, that was case 2403, right?
2402 and 2403.
Yeah, but.
Correct, 2403 and
Right.
2402.
Okay. Mr. Shane, you have any comments?
For the record, Jeff Shane of the Jones Fussell Law Firm at P.O. Box 1810 in Covington, representing the owner and developer Warehouser NR Company. We, of course, certainly are in accord with staff comments. And this is the parcel that we presented to you when we amended the PUD 3 or 4 months ago, suggesting to you that we were going to add 125 acres of green space and put 2 ponds on that property. There's no additional lots that are being created for residential use. So we respectfully request that you consider granting both tentative and preliminary subdivision approval subject to staff comments.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Shane.
Yes, sir.
Anyone in the audience wish to speak for or against on these 2 cases? Seeing no one, I will close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner McInnes.
Mr. Shane may have answered my question. So this is just green space being added to another PUD that has been approved?
The amendment to the PUD was approved that added this area to the PUD, north of Fire Tower Road, and all of its green space.
Will the green space have any easement on it? Any conservation or deed restrictions?
No, ma'am, it does not. It is designated there was green space on the PUD.
Okay,
So in order for there to be a different form of land use, we would have to come to the zoning commission to make that change.
Okay.
We do have the permitted use to, in the PUD pursuant to the amendment, to excavate the 2 ponds and to use the dirt in the Tammany site. I'm sure some of you remember that discussion when we presented that a few months ago.
Anything else?
I have no more questions.
Commissioner Fitzmaurice.
Motion to approve 2021-2403 TP.
Okay. We have a motion by Commissioner Fitzmaurice, Commissioner Crawford,
Second the motion.
on both of the,
He just did one.
okay, all right. This is 2403.
Correct.
Any further discussion? Please vote.
Motion to approve carries.
Thank you. All right, on 2021-2402 PP, Commissioner Fitzmaurice.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Fitzmaurice to approve, Commissioner Crawford.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Crawford. Any further discussion? Please vote.
Motion to approve carries.
Thank you. All right, next item is 2021-2405 TP, La Cheniere Phase 2. Developer owners BLD Investments LLC. Engineer surveyors J.V. Burks and Associates Incorporated. Parish Council District Representative is Honorable Michael Smith. General location, this property is located north and east of South Military Road, Louisiana Highway 190, east of U.S. Interstate 10, Slide L, Ward 8, District 9. Staff?
Yes, sir. Staff has reviewed the documentation, has the following comments. Number 1, a traffic impact analysis is required for this development in accordance with St. Tammany Parish Ordinance Section 125-160. Number 2, provide a written objection letter from the La Cheniere Homeowners Association regarding the connection of Royston Drive to La Cheniere Phase 2. Additionally, consideration should be given to relocating lot number 41 to be in line with lots number 50 and 59. Number 3, remove note number 9 from sheet 2 of 2 regarding the RV storage area. Number 4, the developer is responsible for contacting the St. Tammany Parish 911 addressing office to request address and road name verification. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Shane.
Jeff Shane of the Jones Fussell Law Firm at P.O. Box 1810 in Covington, representing BLD Investments LLC, which is both the owner and developer of La Cheniere Phase 2. In response to the comments, with regard to item 1, when we filed for tentative, it was our belief that we could file a traffic memorandum in lieu of a full traffic study and satisfy the requirements of the ordinance. I had discussions yesterday with Mr. Tisha, who indicated that he thought a TIA needed to be filed. But I would like to bring to the Commission's attention the following information, some of which you heard when I had this PUD amended a few months ago and came before you. La Cheniere received both tentative and preliminary subdivision approval in 2003. Construction began in 2004. That construction ceased in 2007. Granted, those approvals expired. That's why we came back to you for new approvals. When we came back to you, though, and amended the PUD, please remember that we reduced the density in half, reduced the number of lots from 160 to 80. Please remember that, and some of you are probably familiar with the area, but there are both left and right turn lanes, both at the entrance to La Cheniere and also Turtle Creek. And at the La Cheniere entranceway, the length of the turning lanes are tapered to the max, meaning they run as close as you can get to the W-15 canal. I think those points are important because the amount of traffic that we propose by virtue of this phase is less than what was originally envisioned. It obviously should be adequately taken care of by virtue of the infrastructure that has been in place now for many years. So we respectfully request that our traffic memorandum be accepted in satisfaction. And I don't know if that memorandum is in your packet or not. It would not be? Okay. Well, so that you will know, there was a detailed memorandum submitted by my engineer to the parish, providing, based on the trip generation schedule, the amount of trips that would be generated by the development of these 81 lots to show that we think the amount of traffic, again, can comfortably be accommodated based on the existing infrastructure. You might also be aware that because of the COVID environment, we've probably been in at least a 13 to 15 month hiatus from being able to take traffic counts on state highways because of prohibitions based on the change in the COVID environment. Moving to item 2, we have provided that written objection letter, and I believe that it is in the record with the PUD proceeding. I'm somewhat embarrassed to say I thought I had one in my file when I came tonight, but thankfully I did make a note. I believe that in the PUD amendment proceeding, there's a letter of March 28 from Turtle Creek signed by Mr. John Wells, and also a letter dated March 30 on behalf of La Cheniere signed by Mr. Jim Ewell. If those letters are not in the record, I'll be glad to satisfy them, but both of the subdivisions granted permission or consent to this proposed plan and certainly had no objection. With regard to the second sentence in comment 2, if you'll take a look at the drawing, that change, if you will, is really not feasible. The PUD amendment that we did before you on April 6 had the same configuration that you see on the tentative plat, and that was based on meetings that we had with Councilman Smith, La Cheniere, and Turtle Creek. They did not want to have the additional connection. The only connections that they envisioned between this phase and Turtle Creek would be La Cheniere Drive and also Leeds. So we would respectfully suggest that no change be made as suggested in the second comment. The third comment is one that we certainly will do. The fourth comment is certainly one that we would do. So in light of the foregoing, we respectfully request that you grant tentative subdivision approval this evening in some part, in some way in accord with staff comments, but to the extent that I have attempted to distinguish those staff comments, we ask that you accept that distinguishment. If any of you have any questions for me, I'll be glad to come back to the podium at the appropriate time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Shane. Anyone in the audience wish to speak for or against on this subdivision? I'll close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner McInnes.
Yes, this question's for staff. In looking at the hazard mitigation plan for the parish, there's a lot of claims for repetitive property loss in this area, and Chris has provided me with a more detailed map that was in that plan, and there's none in the immediate vicinity of La Cheniere, but there are some to the north and to the south. And I'm noticing in the on the plan, the tentative approval for the plat, it says that base flood elevation of 13 feet in flood zone AE, and in the restrictive covenants under number 7, it says the minimum finished floor elevation shall be 14 feet. So that'll put you a foot above base flood level, but and especially looking at the homes east of Leeds Street that are closer to the swamp to the east. Is there anything you can tell me to give me comfort that these homes someday aren't going to flood? You know, we know the Pearl floods all the time, and if we get southeast winds, the Pearl can't drain effectively, and a lot of water backs up. So I'd sure be more comfortable if those homes were 2 foot above base flood elevation requirements than 1. So, and just one more thing, in the hazard mitigation plan, it talks about predicted sea level rise, and then it has a map of areas that will be impacted by predicted sea level rise over the next 50, I think it was 50 years. And that it gets pretty much all of the southern part of Slidell. So with that, what you think?
We can hold them to the ordinances and that what they require, you know, as far as base flood elevation and what the finished flood elevations are. You know, even the 13 is the preliminary map base flood elevation out there. The effective is actually at 9 currently. So at 14, they're a foot above base flood elevation, and then, you know, 13 is what the ordinances require them to build to. So any decision to build higher than that or raise a property would be up to the developer and the home builder.
But you can't tell me what you think as far
I can
as.
tell you what the ordinances say.
I know. Okay, well, Mr. Shane,
Yes, ma'am.
what would be the possibility of, for the few lots, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 lots that are closest to the swamp, could they be built at higher elevations?
Certainly it's possible, but it's not desirable, and most importantly, because we don't think it's necessary, nor does your code requirement. My engineer, Sean Burks, who's with me this evening, advises that the normal water level is around 4 to 5 feet, that with 29 inches of range, the water level got to approximately 8 feet, that at Katrina, the water level got to 12.5 feet. So we believe that with code or BFE being at 13 plus 1 at 14, I don't believe there's any suggestion of harm or injury. So it's not a matter of defiance, it's just that the history, the science, and the law should allow us to build homes on those lots at the 13 plus 1.
I know, I'm just looking down the road at, we always have a bigger storm, and our own hazard mitigation plan indicates this is in an area that is likely to have higher flood events in the future. I'm not asking for the whole subdivision, I'm just asking for those few lots.
Well, I understand that. I think it's a philosophical difference. I believe that your comments are more directed toward legislation, meaning that if this is something the Planning Commission thinks it should talk to the council about to change the rules, I understand that.
No, I know that, Mr. Shane, but I'm just asking for you to voluntarily.
And I'm respectfully suggesting that I think that the property owner is entitled to use his property and develop it in accordance with the law.
Yes.
And the law, and so, well, with all due respect, we do not believe that there is a real risk, and for that reason, we do not intend to build at a higher elevation.
And you won't ask the developer?
I've been sitting with the developer and the engineer.
Oh, okay.
We had the chance, that's why I moved forward, because I assumed I knew where this discussion might go. And I respect your position. I'm not being trite, but I think, again, I mean, I'm not on a soapbox, but I believe strongly that we should be asked to follow the laws. You often remind me of that in other cases. And so, in this instance, although I realize you're not suggesting you don't understand the law, I know that. I hear you loud and clear. But I don't believe that there is a basis for the request, and my client is not interested in doing something that we think is meaningless.
Well, I understand and I respect your decision, but I will say, I think I gave enough information that it wasn't baseless. But I understand that is your prerogative to say no.
Sure.
I was asking for a voluntary item, so I'm through.
Commissioner Randolph.
Yes, Mr. Shane, I know you're getting some exercise. I do recall I'm referring to item 2.
Yes, sir.
I do recall the conversation or the discussion, if you will, as it relate to relocating of lot number 41 with lots in line with lots 50 and 59. But I don't recall exactly what was the rationale for not doing that.
Well, quite frankly, the residents in the area, both La Cheniere Phase 1 and also to some extent Turtle Creek, in that this subdivision is going to be connected to them, they did not want an additional cut going to the north, and that's what that alignment would allow. So we met at Mr. Burke's office with, I think actually 4 subdivision board members, representatives, and with Councilman Smith, and went through that, because we were not adverse to that, but the residents did not want that, and Councilman Smith did not think it was necessary. So my notes indicate we amended our PUD plan on March 30 to submit to you, so that when it came before you on April 6th, that's how it was approved.
Okay. And with that answer, still can listen and hear from my fellow commissioners, but I motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Randolph to approve. Commissioner Reyes.
Jeff, you can come up. I don't know if it matters or not. I think Commissioner McGinnis brought a point that maybe we're missing here. And you know, the ordinances are struggling to keep up with maybe the need in the parish. And so and we think we all know you're meeting the ordinances and the requirements, but I think what we're starting to see and what the people of the parish are seeing is what we've been doing hasn't been working completely. We're still having a lot of flooding issues throughout the parish. This may not be the place, but we're still having problems throughout the parish. And the people are not happy with what's happening. And it may lend to maybe the ordinances aren't strict enough, but they are what they are for right now. And I think what or at least I'm thinking, and I think Ms. McGinnis was also referring to, is there's nothing these are minimum standards. There's nothing that keeps developers from doing a better job, to doing a little bit more, because we do have problems. If we didn't have a problem, it would be easy, but we are having problems throughout the parish. And unfortunately, your case is the one that's in front of us, and it's an area that potentially has some risk. We may agree or disagree on that. But I would urge these new developments that are coming forward to think really hard about going a little bit beyond some of the ordinances, whether it's in retention, tree planting. I know, Mr. Shane, you were involved with a project that one of the key features of it was there were going to be trees planted in the development. I haven't heard that again in a case since then. It was one case, and it was a good idea. And some of the things that are good, these could be elevated houses. They don't have to be built way up. They could be elevated houses. There's a lot of things that could be done. And I just don't hear us trying to do more than what we just have to. I understand it's the law.
but it doesn't keep you developers from trying to do more and to help the people of the parish go a little bit further. And if we don't start doing something different, we're just gonna get more of the same. And until the laws or the ordinances catch up, if they're gonna, we're asking for the people of the parish for some help. And you're the people that have the ability to do this. So, you know, I would just ask you to take that message back, look at this when you're doing it. I don't think it's a big deal for these to be possibly elevated houses or something and meet the need. I would just ask you, again, as Ms. McGinnis asked, to look at this and take into consideration what's there. If you don't, that's your prerogative. But I think we've got to do more. And I think that's the point that's being raised here. Okay? Thank you.
May I respond to that?
Yes, you may.
Okay. Well, I don't disagree that all of us need to figure out ways to make our parish better. And although my experience with you and Ms. McInnes as commissioners is probably limited to the last year and a half, some of you on this commission I've had much longer tenure, and I feel confident, and I don't think I'm being arrogant when I say this, but there are many cases where my clients as developers have gone beyond what code requires, where we felt that there were benefits that were needed for a project in the drainage areas and the traffic areas in particular. So in this particular case, the suggestion of going higher for a certain amount of lots has some consequences. The first when the suggestion was made, you know, perhaps it meant slab on grade. And then as I hear the discussion, it talks about maybe homes being elevated. And to the extent that maybe they'd be elevated with slab on grade, it requires bringing in more fill dirt, which might change the balance of the fill in that particular area. So, I mean, there's multiple consequences as it relates to proposed tweak to this phase of La Cheniere. But again, I think that as we continue to develop this parish, it will require continued discussions between government, council, commission, and the development community, and certainly listening to the residents to come up with the best solutions. Very similar to the discussions I had with all of you, and I think I had it with all of you privately after our last planning commission meeting, about trying to clean up some of the discussions we have about final subdivision approval. Where I told you that the development community that I represent are willing to make changes and provide longer periods of time. I say that only by way of example to suggest that I don't think our ears are deaf in this particular instance, so we respectfully believe that the plan is solid.
Ken and Nell, I think honestly, this subdivision could have been built with 160 homes. It was already approved, okay? The developer has gone back and cut the number of homes down to 81, I think it is. And that's an improvement to traffic and a number of things. If you look at the area, not just La Cheniere, but look at Turtle Creek. There's homes, and Sean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but there's homes in Turtle Creek that go further east than what these homes will in La Cheniere. Now, probably the worst flooding that we had in this area was Katrina. And I think there was a minimal amount of flooding off the Pearl River with Katrina in both Turtle Creek, and then there's another subdivision that goes even further east called the Bluffs. So, you know, I understand what you're saying, but, you know, it's going to be up to the council and maybe our engineering staff to get with the council and say, we need to do something. If the council doesn't feel like it's, any changes are needed, then there will be nothing happen. So, Commissioner Crawford.
I don't believe we have a second for that motion as yet.
No, we don't have a second.
I'll second the motion for approval.
Good.
Also, I'd like to echo the same sentiments as Ms. McInnes and Mr. Ress. These are minimum standards, and I think we all understand that. Certainly, when things are being built or when things are being developed, I think that, as Jeff said, developers will work in good faith, and I hope they will try to do everything to mitigate the problems that we see. As Ken said, we do continue to see flooding. We do continue to see traffic problems. And from this standpoint, at least from my standpoint, if we continue to see these things and we don't have much power to do anything to change the continued development that keeps coming, one thing we may push for is a moratorium on building until we can get something straight, till we can talk with Parish and see if some changes need to be made. So hopefully we can work to mitigate these problems. Hopefully all of our developers will work to mitigate the problems, and we won't have to do any of those. But as we build in the southern part of the parish, things seem to just get worse and worse. Water seems to get higher and higher. Rain seem to get stronger and stronger, and that creates a problem. It's part Mother Nature, and it might be part us, but it's a problem nonetheless. It needs to be taken into account. So again, I second the motion.
Thank you. Commissioner McInnes.
I just wanted to respond to, or just echo some of the statements I made, is that our hazard mitigation plan is a document that we need to use. And it's based on a ton of data that talks about the hazards of flooding in this area. Now, as the weather patterns have been in the past, maybe we'll be just fine. But they're showing us that the weather patterns aren't going to be the same as far as sea level rise. And maybe Katrina didn't bring a lot of water in then, but move it just a few miles to the west, the story might have been different. So I'm really concerned about us continuing to allow flooding of innocent residents. So I think otherwise, I think it's a very good plan. And I have no complaints about it.
Okay, thank you. All right, I see no one else in the queue. We've got a motion to approve and a second. Legal, you got something?
You want to clarify the motion to accept Jeff's explanation of staff comments, because I think those are good staff comments, and I don't think that they want
Okay, so the motion just needs to be amended to accept the staff?
to accept the changes as discussed by Mr. Shane.
Okay,
If that's the motion.
okay. Ron? Will do, okay. The motion will be to accept the changes that was discussed by Mr. Shane and staff.
Point of inquiry, I guess. Can you clarify what these modifications were? Because section 125, 166 does not allow a waiver of the TIA, even from Planning Commission, or a modification of that. That's gonna be modified, it's gonna be with discussions of staff in regarding what's actually provided.
Okay, so what Mr. Shane's client furnished is not acceptable, is that what I'm understanding?
No, sir, not at this time.
Okay, so you're still gonna have to have a TIA.
Or a memo in conformance to what we would require.
Mr. Shane?
Sorry, I didn't hear the last statement. Did you say?
Or a memo in accordance with what we would require. We need enough information to be able to meet ordinance requirements.
Okay.
Okay, now, the TIA that we had and have probably,
There is no TIA for this development. That's part of the issue.
not for this development, but in the original approval where we had the 160 homes in the PUD.
That there was no TI submitted for that. It was a recommendation from the contractor or the developer at the time saying, here's the modifications we propose to do in light of the traffic we're going to be creating. There was not a TIA or documentation submitted to support it that we have in our files.
Okay. So I'll go back to you, Mr. Shane. Can we get the TIA?
Well, I thought that there was some traffic information originally presented. I certainly don't have a copy of it, and I don't know that I presented it. But in any event, if we need to supplement the memorandum to address things that staff would like to see, we understand that. As you all know, tentative is not a work order. It does not allow us to go to work. So if you would consider granting tentative subdivision approval with the understanding that we will need to supplement the traffic memorandum to address concerns that staff may have, I think that's acceptable.
Okay. Ron?
Staff?
We agree with that.
Okay.
We don't see any issue with that.
I concur, and I do not mind amending my motion to accept that.
Okay, and
Just remove.
Just remove the substitute memo or whatever he had, whatever he said.
Okay, so it would be a motion to approve subject to the traffic impact memorandum being supplemented to staff and then removal of general comment number 2.
We would still like a copy of the written objection letter from Lashneer HOA about the connection. We
Okay.
also don't have that for our file. So it would be
Okay.
subject to staff comments, to provide a TIA or something we would deem appropriate as a memorandum, which we typically will do, working with the developer and their engineer.
okay.
So just a motion to approve subject to staff comments.
Unless Mr. Shane has an objection to that.
Okay. You have a comment, Mr. Shane?
I don't think I do, but I want to make sure I heard you correctly. And I admit my hearing's not the best, not that you guys weren't clear. So as I appreciated, item 1, the motion would be for approval subject to staff comments as modified, and I will try to recite that and ask that I be interrupted if I misunderstand. As to item 1, we will submit an additional memorandum or study depending on what our discussions will be as it relates to traffic. As to item 2, I believe those letters are in the record of the PUD proceeding, but if they're not there, it's incumbent upon me to get copies of them and supply them to you. I actually had notes, though, and I've put into the record the dates of the letters, the parties that signed those letters, saying that there was no objection, and I've also addressed the fact that the relocation of Lot 41 would not be consistent with the amendment that you approved to the PUD. Item 3 we agreed to, and item 4 we agreed to. Or we agree that the approval is subject to those items. Thank you all for working through this with us.
Okay. Any further discussion? Staff, you have anything else?
No, sir.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion to approve carries.
All right. Preliminary subdivision review. 2021-2398-PP, Alexander Ridge, Phase 4. Developer owner Savannah's Community LLC. Engineers Kyle Associates. Parish Council District Representatives Honorable David Fitzgerald. General location east of Louisiana Highway 1081, south of Smith Road, Covington, Ward 3, District 2. Staff?
Yes, sir. The preliminary plans and hydrologic study have been reviewed by this office, and an inspection was made of the site on May 28th, 2021. Planning Commission approval shall be subject to the following items being addressed. Number 1, A right-of-way for the proposed connection to the existing phase of Alexander Ridge needs to be established prior to the issuance of an unlimited work order for Phase 4. This will result in an act of correction being required for the previously recorded Alexander Ridge Phase 3B plat. 2, the drainage impact analysis submitted for this phase of Alexander Ridge is currently under review by St. Tammany Parish staff. Upon completion of the review, comments will be issued to the developer and engineer to be addressed. 3, the traffic impact analysis submitted for this phase of Alexander Ridge is currently under review by St. Tammany Parish staff and LADOTD. Upon completion of the reviews, comments will be issued to the developer and engineer of record to be addressed. The plans provided will need to be updated to include any proposed traffic and roadway improvements outlined in the study. 4, the utility servitude for the proposed sewer force main location needs to be established prior to the issuance of a work order to include water and sewer. This will result in an act of correction being required for the previously recorded Alexander Ridge Phase 3B and Phase 3C plats. 5, Thibodeau Road is a substandard roadway with sections less than 18 feet wide between the proposed connection and Stafford Road. Staff recommends the roadway be brought up to parish minimum standards or an acceptable alternative be proposed by the developer and/or the engineer of record. 6, provide individual lot dimensions and bearings for all lots within this phase of Alexander Ridge. 7, provide written approval or written plan approval from the individual utility companies who will be responsible to own and maintain the water and sewer systems. A funded maintenance obligation amount of $10,000 is required in accordance with St. Tammany Parish Code of Ordinances. An additional maintenance obligation in the amount of 5,000 linear feet at $5 per linear foot of water line for a total of $25,000 is required for the construction of the water lines within the Thibodeau Road right-of-way to ensure the repair of any damage to the parish road from construction activity in connection with the installation of the water lines. And mandatory developmental fees will be required at final submittal. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone here? Good evening.
Good evening. Eddie Powell with Kyle Associates, 638 Village Lane North, Mandeville, Louisiana, here on behalf of the developer. The general comments, as Mr. Tissue read out, we really have no objections to any of those. Number 1 and number 4 relate to some active corrections that'll need to be done to the Alexander Ridge Phase 3 B and C plats that were previously done, that we're going to work on those pending preliminary approval this evening. As Mr. Tissue mentioned, the drainage study and the traffic study were all submitted. They're just in their final review stages of the parish, and we'll address any comments that come up at that time. I will say, for what it's worth, the drainage study does actually slightly exceed the parish minimums. We have 100 acres of green space on a 141-acre tract, while still meeting all the parish's requirements as far as the drainage. The traffic study, an initial version of the traffic study has already been reviewed by DOTD. We've addressed those comments, submitted them back to DOTD and to the parish as part of our preliminary subdivision submittal. We are going to be required to do a turn lane, a northbound right turn lane off of Stafford Road onto Thibodeau Road once the phasing of our subdivision connects to Thibodeau Road. So we're in full agreement with that. Once we know that the traffic study has been approved, then we'll implement those plans and get those submitted for everyone's approval. We actually met with the parish yesterday afternoon to discuss the comment in regards to Thibodeau Road. This actually came up during some of our meetings with the residents during our PUD approval back several months ago. And we're certainly willing and agreeable to work with the parish in coming up with a plan. We talked about it in theory yesterday about, so we're going to draft a letter and a plan and the timing of the implementation of that. We don't want to do it too early with construction going on, but want to make sure that the road is safe for those that are using it. The UIL and Lee Road Water are both reviewing the sewer and water plans respectively. Once we get comments back from them, we'll certainly address them and get those approved before obviously we do any of that work. The comments on the preliminary plat is just some drafting items that we're getting taken care of. And then, of course, number 7 is the written plan approval by UIL and Lee Roads. So we're here requesting the preliminary approval of Phase 4, and are here to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay.
So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone in the audience wish to speak for? You wish to speak against? come to the microphone, state your name and address, and I'll need a speaker card if you haven't filled one out.
I will. My name is Kathy Ward, and I recently bought a piece of property, 5 acres on Thibodeau Road. But I have family that's been there since 2001. It's a dead-end road, which means my grandkids, who I have 6 at 5 and under, they all learn to ride their bikes and walk and look at the wildlife. And I realize people have a right to develop their property. I'm not against that. But I am against all these homes having an entrance on Thibodeau Road, which is a dead-end road. I don't understand how that could be allowed. The other problem I have is when the sign was posted, it was posted on the property that's being affected, but most of the people on Thibodeau Road don't drive that far down. They don't even know about this meeting. And I was not able to get in touch with all of them. The sign should have been posted at the stop sign so every resident on Thibodeau Road and on Demas Jenkins Road would have been able to know about this meeting. So that's a concern. I am not opposed to developing, but I am opposed of having this entrance on this many houses being connected throughout the other subdivision and all of them coming down this road. And it is substandard, but not for as few people are using it right now. It's not that bad. And the lot sizes. I didn't have enough time to really review all of that. I took pictures on my phone so I could review it later, and I can't read. But the lot sizes in that area, I can't see them being under 3 acres. It just shouldn't be. I realize we have some lots in that area that are smaller, but it's not a subdivision. I mean, I'm not against it, but I am against having tiny lots. I don't want to live in Metairie. I'm from the West Bank. I don't want to move back home, but I might as well. If the parish is going to continue to plop everything down like this and continue to change zonings for anybody who's got a few dollars to dish out. When are we going to fix the bridge over the river so that when I'm on my way home, I don't have to sit in traffic so long? That 2-lane bridge should have been fixed 40 years ago. What are we waiting for? A gift? I mean, I do have a lot of concerns, and I'm not against the developers. They're doing what they're allowed to do. What are we doing as a parish for our residents? I just want y'all to consider that. I bought on a dead-end road because that's where I wanted to live. They need to contact some of the other owners. They already butt up to 2 of my neighbors. Ask them to get a right-of-way on the backside of their property where that subdivision's already there. We don't need all those people coming out one road. You're not only going to need a turning lane, you're going to need a red light. Have you guys noticed how many accidents are on spells on Highway 437? At that corner? I mean, have a wreck, get killed. You can go right into Bagnell's and they'll take care of you. I mean, that's a dangerous intersection. So not only do you need a turning lane, you need a red light. You're just packing them in, packing them in, packing them in. And it's just not fair to everybody who pays taxes in this parish to do that kind of zoning in that area. I mean, I would say minimum lots of 3 acres, but even 1.5 acres or 2 acres would be better. I don't care how much green space you got. You can't pack that many people in. It's not fair.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak against? Anyone wish to speak for? We'll go to rebuttal. Yes, sir.
My name's Kenneth Lapicola, the developer, 21056 Smith Road, Covington, Louisiana. We've been in discussions with many of the residents that live on Thibodeau Road and at the end of Thibodeau Road. And we have 2 entries. Our main entry is on Stafford Road that goes through Alexander Ridge Phase 3. So this is going to be a secondary entry. And we're also working on improving Thibodeau Road to 18 feet wide. And it is a dead-end road. It'll never be a cut-through road as Smith Road is in our area. That is an 18-foot wide street. So we will be putting a turn lane off of Stafford onto Thibodeau. But this is not the only entry, nor is it going to be the primary entry to our development. Our lot sizes that we're doing are the same lots that we did in Alexander Ridge Phase 3, that we attracted a lot of our empty nester retirees to. And we're not generating a lot of traffic. We don't have that many families that live at the peak times anyhow. So I'm here for any questions, but we have been working with many of the residents in the area, and they are aware of the progress and how long we have been working on this, and we are proud that we're preserving a mile of the Little Beaufly River, and we do have 100 acres of green space because we do care about the wildlife. So with that being said.
Thank you. All right, ma'am, you wish to rebut anything? Pardon?
She said she doesn't see the point. So no is her answer.
Okay. All right. We've had speaking for and against and rebuttal, so I'm going to close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Drum.
I'm looking at this drawing here, and it shows the road Shadow Bend Drive. It goes to Pine River Drive, then it goes all the way around, and then it connects over here at River Fork Drive. Is that over 700 feet between those two roads? Because if it is, they're over mileage. It's too long. Can anybody answer that?
Yeah, they're looking right now.
Because I see something here that says 760 feet. Okay, that's 60 feet too much without an entry or exit, according to the law. Answer, anybody?
Staff, Mr. Powell.
I'm sorry, I had to grab my geometric plan. So where was the question about the
Okay,
dimensions?
this drawing that I have, right here. Okay. Now, looking at it face on, you have the road that River Fork Drive enters onto Shadow Bend Drive. Right?
Yes, sir.
That's okay. And it goes all the way around to Pine River Drive. Is that over 700 feet?
Yes, sir.
Then it's too much. 700 feet is the max.
Okay, then we would.
You have to have another entry or exit by law,
Okay, well
or a
then,
turnaround spot for an emergency unit. So you have to correct that.
okay, well then that would be something that we would request a waiver on.
No, no waiver, it has to be, period.
Okay, I don't, staff, we'd have to talk about that because. How do we handle that, guys? This isn't a pre-PUD plan.
Excuse me, Commissioner Drummer, you're referring to the 700-foot requirement between intersections of roads without
Correct.
the intersecting road.
And has it changed?
This has not changed since any of the PUD approvals that I'm aware of from anything, and it's very similar to the last phase of Alexander Ridge. They are allowed under the current ordinance to request a waiver if that's deemed necessary. However, with the loop road system, it's pretty hard to make another intersection. What you would basically be asking them to do is
Or
put
can
an
they make
intersection in at the detention pond to create
Right.
no access off the lots, but eliminate additional detention in that area.
Well, right here where it says lot 36 and 35, and lot 34 and lot 40,
Yes, sir.
could they make that a turnaround? Emergency turnaround?
What would be the function of the turnaround there? Because it's a loop,
Emergency vehicles.
but they can make a loop around the road.
We've gone through this before when we were over on, Sharp Road or whatever. We went through that, and they had a road that was over 700 feet, and they had to correct it because of emergency turnarounds. So why can we not have one here?
Why you would want to turn around on a loop road system.
Right.
You might understand the turnaround need, and similar to one like we did off Sharp Road, where it was a continuously long road that we deemed necessary for the ordinance to have either an intersecting, bisecting road or some form of a turnaround, but that's not, it's not what we have here. This is not a dead-end road.
I mean, you don't have to,
Function,
but
facilitate
you had
traffic.
said earlier that y'all don't have the right to waive. I just wanted to let you know that you do.
Right. Thank you.
I mean, we could certainly do that temporarily as it's phased, but with the permanent construction, it doesn't, you know, when it's all built out, it just doesn't really make sense to have turnarounds when we've got a continuous loop to allow for emergency egress and ingress pretty easily. Like I said, this is almost identical to what we did at Alexander Ridge Phase 3.
Well, I'll just leave it at that. I'm not going to make any recommendations.
Okay. Anything else, Kirk?
Nope, I just,
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Willie?
Okay, question to the developer here. I'm looking at the map, and it looks like the little Buckfly is your east boundary of this subdivision?
Yes,
How-
yes, sir.
And I see a lot of flood zone A, flood zone C coming into there. The house pads themselves, what flood zone is that? Is that all flood zone C?
Yeah, B and C,
The whole,
yes,
the
sir.
entire tract of
Yes, sir.
where the homes are?
That's correct.
Okay, because, I'm not sure, I'm not aware of any flooding, from the river in that area, in the history of the area. Y'all
Kenneth can speak
shed
to
some
that.
light on that?
Yeah, in this side of the river is the high bluff side of the river.
Okay.
My personal property is actually north of this property, and I'm at a lower elevation. As soon as you leave my property heading south on the river, the elevation actually rises 3 to 4 feet. And if you walk the whole river, we're on the bluff side. The other side of the river is about
It's a low
20
side.
feet lower. So there's no indications that it's ever had any water in the area that we'd be putting the homes, even though all the property is high, dry, buildable property. The 100 acres of green space is 100 acres of very buildable, good property.
We're staying very central to the
Okay.
site.
And
with
I
the
noticed
green
the,
space all the way around.
Okay, and so we got a detention pond. How big is that detention pond? I see.
I'm
Is it-
sorry, what was that question?
The detention pond, how big is it?
How big is it? I forget the
I think
dimensions
it's
off the top. of my
5
head.
acres,
Yeah,
6
it's,
acres?
it's.
1,000 square
Yeah,
feet.
it's pretty large. I don't
So
have that.
4 acres.
Yeah, it's around 4 or 5 acres.
Okay.
something
4 to
like
5
that. Yeah, it's a large detention.
Right, so we're all flood zone C and everything. Now, to that 30-foot Thibodeau Road, I see where y'all are looking to dedicate 30-foot to St. Tammany Parish. How about the rest of it west of there, though? How wide is the road at that point?
We're still working, trying to figure out that information. We only own, he only owns.
Right, I know you
frontage.
own the
right of way.
So that was basically the property currently goes to the center line of Thibodeau Road for
Right.
his tract of land. So that's the need for the dedication of the 30 feet.
Okay.
So we believe it's a 60-foot right-of-way where there's truly right-of-way. But not having done a abstract of the entire Thibodeau Road, we don't know who might also own to the center and what have you.
Okay.
So,
And regarding the connectivity to, I guess that's Phase 3?
that's
or,
correct. Yes, sir.
They will be able to travel from that northwest corner all the way to Stafford Road from that point?
Yes, sir. Yeah,
Okay,
it goes through
without any
Alexander Ridge,
problems with
Phase
the-
3, into Tammany, and then out.
Okay,
Yes,
and
sir.
that, back to the detention pond again, is that gonna be, it's gonna hold water, it's gonna be a dry detention?
It's gonna be a pond. I mean,
gonna be a
it's,
pond.
yeah, it's gonna have the dry, the volume of
Yeah.
water needed, but it's gonna be a wet pond.
Okay,
similar-
from
similar to what's out-
and also
out
from
there.
satellite view, I noticed it's a very wooded area. Are we clearing that, most of that, or what are we doing about
The home
trees?
sites in the pond area, but all the conservation and all of that has no use other than some walking paths for the residents
Right.
to get a path down to the Little Bowfly River to enjoy it, but most of
The
it.
the development's restricted to about 41 acres of the 141 acres of the
Okay.
total tract.
I know it's very wooded, from satellite
Right,
pictures.
it's gonna stay that
And it's
way.
gonna
So
stay that way.
what's that? Okay.
We have minimum of 250-foot buffers off of the river. We have a 200-foot buffer from our existing neighborhood. And we have a 100-foot buffer off of Thibodeau Road and adjacent to John Thibodeau's family. So we have a minimum of 100-foot buffer anyway.
Okay. Well, I like the idea that it's all flood zone C, where the home pads are, so.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Commissioner Seeger.
I've visited this site and another area, another phase of development. And would you tell me the total number of acres here is about 141 acres?
Yes, sir.
And how much green space? We've
Approximately
discussed
one-
this before. How many?
Approximately 100 acres of the 141.
100, so 100 acres is going to be either left alone or in green space, and you're only building on about 40 acres. And I think that's what the parish is envisioning for a PUD. I know that previously we eliminated a lot so that you could have access from the from the Stafford Road side. You took out a lot there so that you could have an entrance there. I just think this is the way that the future, perfectly designed. I've been in Alexander Ridge several times in the last few months. And I've seen that everything is done very nicely. It's done up above and beyond what the minimal requirements are. And I move that we approve this preliminary plan.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Seeger to approve. Commissioner McInnes.
Yes, Chris, in the staff comments about Thibodeau Road, if the developer's able to improve it to 18 feet wide consistently throughout, is that acceptable to staff, or was your envisioning of bringing it up to minimum standards significantly more than that?
18 feet wide is generally acceptable for a road like that. To kind of give you comparison, like they mentioned, Smith Road is also about 18 feet wide. Low Davis Road is 18 feet wide. A couple of documents, as far as with the geometric design book for roadway alignment, 9-foot wide lanes is basically the minimum they look for. So yes, ma'am.
That's the
18 feet
minimum.
wide.
I was told, I haven't been down Thibodeau, that there's a lot of old oak trees. Is that true? That it would be
I'm not
difficult
sure.
to improve it without cutting a lot of trees, the old oak trees?
I'm not sure. I'll defer to the developer and the engineer.
Actually, further down, in the front part of Thibodeau Road, there's some trees. Once you get down Thibodeau Road, not that far, the right-of-way on the south side is wide open. That's why it's a task that we deem feasible to widen the ditch, widen the shoulder, widen the road, because it's a pretty wide open right-of-way once you get through the front section. And I think there's a lot of pin oaks, maybe a few live oaks, but I have not seen any signature tree that I saw that would hinder doing the road improvement in the utility work.
Oh, okay. And I'm just going, kind of hopping around here. On the, Chris, on the traffic analysis, so we don't have that yet?
No, ma'am. Actually, the TIA and the drainage study were both submitted within their deadlines. We just had a heavy load of subdivisions to review this period with about 4 days to turn all this stuff around back to the developers and engineers for comments, and they had them address it. And so this drainage impact study's been mostly reviewed. We don't have any significant comments at this time, and the TIA needs to be reviewed.
Sure wish we had that, because this is one of the first projects I think I had as a commissioner. And it was like, gosh, this job is not going to be easy, because I love the green space, but I did not like Thibodeau Road issue. And we're still there. Well, I have gone out to see the earlier phases, Alexander Ridge. I've been out there. And I truly believe most people are going to choose to come out Thibodeau Road, because it's kind of a winding, roundabout way, and it would be much slower, I think. So I think 3/4 of that phase 4, whatever it is, they're going to go for Thibodeau. And so that's an important issue. Wouldn't you agree?
No, I think it depends on where they're going, and most people that are going out Smith Road will not be going Thibodeau. And you know how much traffic Smith Road has, and I think that, and remember the population that we're dealing with. We're not dealing with people that are school age, we're dealing with mostly older people. So that needs to be into consideration. Their target, it used to be, I assume it still is, they're targeting retirees.
Well, how do you do that?
The nature of the product, a lot of green space, the back, our groups get together in the backyards with open fencing, so they had that interaction when people walk around the lake. So that's what we're experiencing now without an age restriction, being targeted. Our area is desirable, the church is right there. And Thibodeau Road's always still gonna be a dead-end road. It's never gonna be a cut-through connector onto any high-traffic situation.
Okay.
And if I could, I know staff's still reviewing the traffic impact analysis. We have gone through one round with DOTD already during our zoning and PUD approvals, and we don't affect the level of service on any of the roads. The only improvement we do are warranting the northbound right turn lane off of Stafford onto Thibodeau. And we actually did some traffic counts pre-COVID and indicated that the current development, Terra Marie and Alexander Ridge Phase 3, are generating somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 to 40% less trips than what the Traffic Institute manual says we should, that we would normally be calculating. So while I haven't formally presented that to anybody, to DOTD, we had talked about this a while back with staff. We've done our study based on the full count, based on the 141 lots, and the normal trips that would be generated, but we're confident that the actual trips will be much less. But even with the trips that we think are too high, there's no negligible impact to the infrastructure based on our development. So.
On the subject of green space, I noticed in the covenants that is going to be managed by the homeowners association?
Yes, the green space, and we do have several different areas. We have a conservation easement that we're working on that is going to be in a conservation, working with a nonprofit. We have our green space that is the more active area that will be controlled by the HOA. So they will be different uses between green space and conservation easement, as the same as the buffer zone between us and the Thibodeau family. We're labeling that even a little different as left natural, planting of longleaf pines, and the removal of tallow trees, and other low-impact uses. So we see we could have, up to 3 different uses of green space.
Wait, you lost me there. So the let's see, I don't have that map open. You have 3 kinds of green space? you have the easement area. Then you have the green space in the immediate vicinity of the buffer areas, I guess. And what else?
Well, we'll have the large conservation easements, and some of that area is what we're working on right now, exactly with that part of the green space and how it will be designated. But right now, we have 103 acres of green space / conservation easement / buffer zones that we are
Okay.
defining and uses and partners of those areas.
Yeah. Well, I recall making a comment last time that you have all these woods, but you have one trail that you're creating to the creek. And if the homeowners association is responsible for some of that green space, could they not put some trails in?
With the cooperation, and I can't say that's gonna be the only trail, but that was what we wanted to identify that would get you to the little Bowfly River, so people
Right.
could use it and see it and all of that. So I think it's with the partnership we work with, whichever conservation or conservancy group we work out as to uses, and it will be a group that wants the interaction of the education of being able to walk through some woods along the little river and see the different types of wildlife. So we don't want trails everywhere, because we do also want some little sanctuary areas for wildlife.
Right,
So we are
right.
mindful of that also.
Okay. I think that is all I had. Okay, I'm done. Thank you.
Commissioner Crawford.
Okay. My only question is about comment 5, which is Thibodeau Road, and I'll address this first to Chris. Chris, staff recommends that roadway be brought up to parish minimum standards, which, if I understand correctly, is 20 feet width?
Correct. And it's
Okay.
spelled out, but the 20 feet width requirement is spelled out in the subdivision section pertaining strictly to subdivisions. So there's many roads in St. Timothy Parish that are less than 20 feet or less than 18 feet wide. You're starting to see that more and more as they come to you guys looking to do subdivisions. You know, there's been a lot of subdivisions approved on roads that are less than 18 feet wide. You know, MP Planche, we're having to widen to accommodate the new subdivision coming through. Joyner Weimer is less than 18 feet wide. You know, Smith Road, which is right down the street from here, is 18 feet wide, and that's used to go east-west between Lee Road and some of the other highways. So as far as the parish roadway requirement, within a subdivision, the 20 feet is the ordinance specified requirement.
Okay, it seems like if within a subdivision, 20 feet would be the requirement, it seems like outside of a subdivision, it would be at least 20 feet.
Yes, sir, that would be inherent, you would think.
That's what I would think. So is the proposal to bring this road up to 20 feet plus the required ditches and so on?
Well, one thing about a 20-foot road, and I talked to John Thibodeau that lives at the end of Thibodeau Road, a straight 20-foot road out in the parish, that'll be, everybody doing 70 miles an hour down it. A calming factor in some cities don't allow streets over 18, so you don't get that high rate of speed. Inside the subdivision, having a 20-foot road is more for the turning radiuses to get in and out of driveways. Thibodeau Road is a travel corridor road. So I think that's a difference of, and we only have 15-mile-an-hour speed limits in our subdivision, but it's more the tight roads in the subdivision turning in and out of driveways is, I think, probably the bigger reason for having wider roads in the subdivision than necessary access road going to a subdivision.
So Chris, is the staff comfortable with an 18-foot road when you take into account garbage trucks or fire trucks or school buses or any vehicle, ambulance or any vehicle that can go down that road with traffic?
So we met with Eddie Powell and the developer yesterday to kind of discuss this, and where we left off was for them to come up with a proposal to submit to the Department of Engineering for review. And one of the things we asked for within that proposal was supporting documentation of, vehicles passing opposite directions, similar to fire trucks, buses, other garbage trucks, or other vehicles of that size and nature that would be utilizing that road. So we can use that in our analysis and determination of whether or not it's acceptable.
Okay, so we don't know at this point if it's acceptable or not.
We submitted one study that we did have the school bus and the SUV clearly passing in both directions with no problem on the road as it is right now, which is 17 at best. So we have, gotten the vehicles out there, we've staged, we've taken the video, and we have submitted that as part of our traffic analysis.
I understand your comments. My concern is that roadway and what it's going to be in the future, and how it's going to be traveled. This is a lot of cars. I would assume it's a fair amount of traffic. I just think that it could be a concern. I want to make sure we don't make a mistake or approve something that's substandard, as you pointed out here. So from the staff standpoint, are we unclear at this point whether the roadway at 18 feet is sufficient?
At this point, we have parish roads that are at 18 feet that function. We have documentation from engineering, our roadway manuals where a 9-foot lane is permissible for this type of traffic.
So the best answer then is that we have other roads in the parish that are 18 feet with 9-foot lanes, and they function with everything that we discussed here, garbage trucks, et cetera.
Correct.
And that would be, you feel that would, from experience, that would probably be sufficient for this?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. No comments.
Commissioner Willie.
With all that discussion, I'm going to second Mr. Seeger's motion.
Okay. Mr. Seeger.
I have a question for staff. This is my ignorance. Is there a way to put a speed limit up on Lee Road in front of Spell's Grocery Store and the funeral home where there's an average of 1 to 2 accidents a week? Can we lower the speed limit there, or what can we do?
I believe Lee Road at that point is a DOTD road, and that would be a request or proposition to Louisiana Department of Transportation.
Thank you.
To have that evaluated.
Thank you.
Commissioner Riss.
Okay, I like the looks of a lot of this plan. I like all the conservation area you put in, and it's the kind of thing I think we were talking about a little earlier. I think it looks good. I have some concerns about the 18-foot road, but if staff feels good about it, that's what we'll go with. This is a question more for staff, and it's a general question for you that it's a two-part question. The first one being is, as we start to move more to the north in the parish with development, because we're pretty much getting used up in the southern part. The mistakes we made in the southern part was no plans for future roads. In other words, I know we have a road plan, a major road plan somewhere, but I have yet to sit in here and hear where there's a plan for a road anywhere. And what I'm getting at is tonight we have this development. We also had Tammany over to the east that are new areas that are fresh. And they look simple right now because they're the only ones there, so to speak. But the trouble is it's the first one, the second one, and pretty soon all the areas are blocked where you might have wanted to put roads in. And I'm just wondering if we've gone far enough to think through the east-west, northwest travel throughout all the parish as we continue to do these developments. Or we're going to end up in the same place we are in the southern part of the parish is what I'm concerned about. How do we know what your plan is for that?
Well, currently, we do not have an adopted plan for St. Tammany Parish for major thoroughfares. We are in the middle of a comprehensive plan update concerning land use. Once we get through maybe 3 quarters, we will be looking into a thoroughfare plan for the parish that will complement the comprehensive plan update, and we'll address those at that time. So we're planning for it, but we're not there yet.
Yeah, if we don't secure right-of-ways as we go, we're gonna be in the same place we are in the southern part of the parish.
Yep, so by the end of 2022, I'd hope to have those plans in place.
Okay. The other question is, how do you determine when some of the maintenance obligation should be sought by the parish for damage to parish roads? What's the criteria for determining? And I hate to use an example because I don't want to, but it's one that's near and dear to me because I live it every day. So we got a roadway that there's new development activity going on, and the road itself is steadily breaking down, being repaired on a weekly basis. It has to be repaired. Now, is it from that development, or is just the road under failure in general? When you have tandem trucks hauling dirt in and out and going up and down the road pretty steadily, and all the activity with a new development, I would think we have more than normal activity and bigger activity than we would normally have if the development wasn't going on. But how much of the damage to the road is attributable, and how do you do that? Or do we ever really take any of the maintenance obligation? Do we do that on a regular basis?
So it really would depend on the condition of the road prior to the start of it. It was a road that the parish had recently just done work to, or if we had something to kind of document or memorialize, okay, here's the condition of that road, and then we can directly attribute it to the development, then we will proceed with calling the maintenance obligation. But at the same time, if it's not something that we can specifically point to directly being impacted by the development coming through, then for the most part, our hands are kind of tied, and we'll work with them, or, Public Works ends up having to make the repairs on that.
Yeah, it's just, I would imagine, even if the road is in a certain state of maybe breaking down, it may be accelerated by some of the activities that are going on. Because I think the type of activity you'd have with a development, with dirt work especially, with tandem trucks and stuff coming in and out and hauling in and out heavier equipment, it seems to me that potentially you would have increased damage to that. And I just wondered if do we ever, I keep reading these maintenance obligations and really question, do we ever get any of the money for the roads?
So to expound a little bit more on those, the maintenance obligations cover basically 500 feet at the connection for the subdivision. Any damage beyond that, or if they're going to be hauling materials in, is typically a separate road bond set up with Public Works when they come in for the construction activity. And so Public Works will go out there and look at that prior to releasing the road bonds.
Okay. All righty, thank you.
Commissioner Drum.
Just one question. Again, under the restrictive covenants, you say the homeowners association will be responsible, we'll put these on so I can see, for maintaining green space areas and pond areas. Is there a mandatory homeowners association?
Yes, sir.
Because I didn't see it written anywhere.
Okay. I will check on that. That's how we function right now in phase 3 is when you buy a lot, you become a member of the HOA and.
Yeah, but you need to get it written because where I'm at, we had one, but it wasn't mandatory, so everybody would rather spend their $30 a month to go buy 2 hamburgers.
Right, yeah, no problem. We'll get that added to the plat.
Add that on the plat.
Thank you.
All right. I see no one else in the queue. We have a motion and a second to approve. Please vote.
Did anybody put anything about a waiver?
Not yet.
I don't think there is a dead-end street that would call into question that 700-foot rule.
Y'all need one for that mandatory, for the continuous 700 feet?
So it's not necessarily continuous 700 feet. It would be 700 feet and then a termination of the road in either a cul-de-sac or a T turnaround. So like a general block length is 1,500 feet from to an intersection. No.
I'm the 700-foot guy.
I hear you.
Commissioner Mercer. Okay, okay, motion to approve carries.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all very much.
All right, final subdivision approval. Case number 2021-2399, FP, Lakeshore Villages, Phase 10, developer owner DR Horton Incorporated Gulf Coast, engineers Duplantis Design Group, PC, Parish Council District Representative Honorable Jake Airy, general location, the property located north of Oak Harbor Boulevard, west of Louisiana Highway 433, east of Interstate 10, Slide L, Ward 9, District 13. Staff?
Yes, sir. Periodic inspections have been made by this office during construction, and the final inspection was made on May 28th, 2021. The inspection disclosed that all the asphalt roads are constructed and the subsurface drainage is functioning. The following uncompleted items existed at the time of the final inspection and will be completed before the plats are signed. 1, several of the asphalt pavement core test results show a maximum density under the minimum required 92%. 2, the streets throughout this phase of Lakeshore Villages need to be cleaned so a meaningful inspection can be made. 3, show as-built drainage direction arrows for each lot in accordance with the approved preliminary drainage plan sheets, C4.3 through C4.6. 4, provide a water and sewer letter of capacity for this development from Oak Harbor East Utilities. 5, provide a letter of acceptance and responsibility for the perpetual maintenance and operation of the water and sewer systems from Oak Harbor East Utilities. 6, provide a clear water test for this phase of Lakeshore Villages. Should the Planning Commission approve the request for final approval, a warranty obligation will be required for the infrastructure in the amount of 4,768 linear feet at $22 per linear foot for a total of $104,896 for a period of 2 years. No mandatory developmental fees are required since a public hearing was held prior to January 1st, 2005. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Shane?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jeff Shane of the Jones Fussell Law Firm at P.O. Box 1810 in Covington, representing DR Horton, Inc., Gulf Coast, with regard to our final subdivision approval request for Phase 10 of Lakeshore Villages. I'd like to provide responses to the 6 comments that you just heard from staff. With regard to item 1, our geotech, which is Premier Geotech and Testing out of Baton Rouge, has investigated the fact that some of the cores were below the standard. We really don't have a good reason as to why those cores came out a little low, but what they did was determine that in order to meet the parish requirements, apparently 10 to 11 core samples would need to be taken. So they went back and took additional core samples. They got to a total of 21 cores to have a better picture of the overall application of the asphalt, and came back with an average compaction of 93.1% for the wearing and 93.98% for the binder course, a global average of 93.54%, and obviously a little more than 1.5% beyond the parish standard. If that data has not been submitted to staff yet, it will be, so that they can have the benefit of it. But we feel that it was somewhat an aberration as it relates to the cores that were taken, and that is the only reason that this comment came about. With regard to item 2, the streets will be cleaned accordingly. With regard to item 3, the as-built drainage direction arrows will be added to the plat. As to item 4, water and sewer capacity have already been constructed by the utility provider. It's in place, and we have requested the letter from Oak Harbor East Utilities, and as soon as we get that letter, we'll provide it to staff. Item 5, the letter of acceptance and responsibility of the water and sewer systems has been requested from Oak Harbor East Utilities, and as soon as we receive it, we'll provide it to staff. And with regard to item 6, the clear water test results were just received last week. They will be provided to staff, and all of those results are acceptable. So in light of the comments, we respectfully request that you grant final subdivision approval for Phase 10, subject to staff comments. If any of you have any questions, I'll be glad to address them at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Mr. Shane. Anyone in the audience wish to speak for or against on this item? Seeing no one, I'm going to close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Fitzmaurice.
I'll make a motion to approve, subject to staff comments.
Motion by Commissioner Fitzmaurice to approve, subject to staff comments. Commissioner Randolph.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Randolph. Commissioner Barcelona.
A question for staff, for the pavement core test results. How many test results do they have issues with? Or was it widespread, or was it just in a certain area?
It wasn't many, and by being under 92%, I mean, unfortunately, if it's under that, even if it was 90 or 91%, we noted it for them because that's part of our requirement. It was, I don't remember the exact number, but I believe it was 3 or 4 of the testing results were under the 92%, so we noted that for them. It's not terribly uncommon to have asphalt cores like that. It really can vary. If I take one here and I take one 20 feet away, I'm going to get a different result.
So with the additional tests that Mr. Shane said were performed by the testing lab, the average density was above 92%. So you guys are comfortable with that?
Yeah, we haven't received that, and that's due to our staff report says don't submit anything until after the meeting to ensure that everything that happens at the meeting can in fact be submitted at one time to the parish. But once we get that information, there should be no issue.
So if that's what that's what they submit, then that sounds reasonable to you.
That'll address comment number 1.
Okay, great, thanks.
Ron, did you have a comment you wanted to make?
I second the motion.
Okay, all right. So we have a motion and a second to approve, subject to staff comments. Please vote.
Motion to approve carries.
Thank you. Do we have any old business? New business? Adjournment? We have a motion to adjourn. Thank you.